Oke, selamat malam teman-teman semua. Di
Selamat subuh.
selamat
Selamat
subuh,
malam, Bos Narko, Bos Santo.
malam malam Bos Narko.
Selamat.
Kita undang-undang dulu nih teman-teman yang lain nih. Mungkin bisa diawali dari fundamental, waktu dan tempat dipersilahkan. Oke, baik. Terima kasih waktu dan tempatnya, Bos Narko. Pertama-tama saya mau menyapa dulu teman-teman semua ya. Selamat malam, selamat bergabung di Live Trade News bersama dengan NS Trade malam hari ini, ya di hari Kamis dini hari. Seperti yang kita tahu teman-teman dan yang sudah dijelaskan di live trade tadi jam 7 malam ya, hari Rabu tadi jam 7 malam. Barusan kita sudah menerima rilis data. Saya akan share screen rilis data yang sudah dirilis ya. Bisa kita pantau di Forex Factory teman-teman. Nah, sebentar, mohon ditunggu sebentar. Nah, ini ya kita kita bisa lihat bersama-sama kalau rilis datanya sudah muncul di sini dan actual Fed Fund Rate-nya masih di angka yang sama yaitu di angka 4,5%. Ini sudah kita bahas tadi jam 7 malam dan sudah saya sampaikan bahwa ini kita sudah bisa mengantisipasi. Dan sekarang yang ditunggu-tunggu itu adalah press conference-nya nanti jam 1.30. Nah, kemudian kita akan coba lihat juga ya update perkembangan pergerakan di chartnya, di goldnya. Nah, kalau kita lihat ini sempat ada lonjakan barusan ya di time frame M5 ke 3393, tapi juga pergerakannya masih saya anggap masih di situ-situ aja. Nah, nanti untuk trading plan saya ikut ke Bos Narko ya. Kemudian saya kembali ke sini dulu, kembali ke Fed Fund Rate. Yang kita nantikan nanti adalah pidato ya ketika Jerome Powell ditanya oleh para wartawan. Nah, yang perlu kita kita tunggu nanti adalah jawaban-jawaban dari Jerome Powell karena seperti yang saya jelaskan tadi di live thread sebelumnya, kemungkinan wartawan akan menanyakan ke Jerome Powell satu terkait dengan ucapan Scott Bessent ya, yang waktu itu sempat mengungkit tentang posisi Jerome Powell di The Fed, yang mana sekarang menjadi Fed Chairman, apakah masih akan duduk di sana atau tidak? Satu itu. Kemudian kedua, tentang pendapatnya Jerome Powell, kenapa kok masih menahan tingkat suku bunga di level yang sama, sedangkan Scott Bessent pada waktu itu sempat menyatakan kalau dia nggak setuju dengan keputusan The Fed ini, yaitu menahan tingkat suku bunga yang cukup tinggi. Kalau kita lihat di CME Fed Watch Tool itu kan kemungkinan akan cut rate-nya atau ditahan sampai kapan ya itu kan, nah ini baru nanti di bulan September teman-teman, kemungkinannya itu pun baru 54,9%. Ini coba saya refresh ya apakah datanya berubah angkanya atau tidak. Nah, kita akan coba cek bersama-sama. Nah, masih di kisaran yang sama ya, tadi 54,9, ini 53,4. Ya, di bulan Juli masih 85,5% sama. Bulan September kemungkinan baru akan mulai potong suku bunganya. Jadi wartawan akan nanya ke sana nanti. Nah, jawaban-jawaban Jerome Powell inilah yang nanti akan kemungkinan ya berpotensi bisa menggerakkan market. Tapi kalau jawabannya cenderung netral, ya seperti yang tadi saya bahas ya, ada kemungkinan ya goldnya setelah malam hari ini sampai besok pagi mungkin ya cenderung akan sideways di area yang sama. Nah, nanti goldnya malah akan nunggu mungkin momentum-momentum dari Donald Trump ya, dia nge-tweet apa atau mungkin dia posting apa di social truth, ya kita kita nggak tahu, mungkin malah akan nunggu itu. Ya ini masih bisa kita saksikan bersama-sama, goldnya masih di range yang sama, ya ini masih sideways. Ya itu beberapa kemungkinannya nanti itu ya kita akan nunggu konferensinya seperti apa. Sama mungkin akan ada yang bertanya tentang perang juga. Kemungkinan akan ada yang nanya wartawan. hubungannya perang, kemudian ke makroekonomi Amerika seperti apa, dan pernyataan The Fed seperti apa menghadapi kondisi yang bisa dibilang dengan tanda kutip ya, ini ada kemungkinan terjadinya chaos. Nah, itulah kenapa tadi saya jelaskan sebenarnya untuk gold ini di luar data ekonomi, yaitu tingkat suku bunga, saya melihat ada kecenderungan gold ini lebih cenderung untuk bergerak naik dengan kondisi geopolitik dan sentimen di Timur Tengah yang sekarang kelihatan sedang semakin memanas. Nah, seperti itu, Bos Narko. Kalau dari saya ya penjelasannya untuk news malam hari ini, FOMC malam hari ini. Sampai sini mungkin teman-teman ada yang mau ditanyakan dulu.
Oke, thank you banget buat insight fundamentalnya. Oke. Ambil kita buka chart kita. Udah clear? Udah jelas? Atau belum?
Belum ada share Bos Argo.
Belum muncul.
Udah.
Ini sudah ini.
Oke. Oke. Suku bunga tidak ada perubahan ya. Tetap di 4,5% ya.
Iya, tetap di 4,5%, Bos Narko. Tidak berubah.
Dan fokus pasar sekarang adalah isi pernyataan dan proyeksi ke depan, dot plotnya.
Iya,
Apakah
betul, Bos Narko.
The Fed kasih sinyal pemangkasan suku bunga tahun ini atau tidak? Itu berarti dari pidato Om kita nanti.
Betul,
Om
Bos
Powell.
Narko.
Oke. Kalau The Fed kasih sinyal bunga akan tahan lebih lama di 4,5%, Mas bisa koreksi dulu sementara. Tapi kalau sebaliknya, akan ada diturunkan beberapa kali di 2025, harga emas bisa lanjut naik. Dari Mas Anton tadi, untuk pergerakan harga XAUSD cenderung bergerak bullish. Dan keputusan ini sesuai ekspektasi ya, keputusan suku bunga ya. Jadi tidak mengejutkan pasar. Tapi yang penting sinyal ke depannya gimana. Sambil kita analisa, sambil kita cari peluangnya. Untuk H4-nya, ya, untuk daily-nya kita bisa lihat harga masih di range-nya aja. Di 3.100 sampai 3.500-an tertingginya dia.
Saya juga menanggapi ini, Bos Narko. Kalau dilihat di dot plotnya atau di SIP yang dirilis barusan ini,
Ya,
sebetulnya proyeksinya masih ada kemungkinan 2 kali potong suku bunga sih, Bos Narko.
ya. Makanya harga emas bisa lanjut naik ini. Kalau sampai memang kode dari The Fed ini untuk suku bunga akan diturunkan beberapa kali ke depan, apalagi 2 kali ke depannya di tahun ini. Kita masih ada waktu 22 menit untuk menganalisa pergerakan harga. Harga saat ini, kalau kita lihat dia trennya naik, dari higher high, jelek banget ini. Nah, dari higher low ya, dan higher high juga ini. Ini channel yang cukup oke menurut saya. Tertahan di level 50. Kalaupun dia bisa tembus, ya, kalaupun bisa tembus, tergantung nanti pidatonya Om Powell gimana. Turun-turunnya ini kita tahu nih, area bottom channelnya ini di sini. Saya cukup menarik ini gambarnya. Middle-nya pun clear ini. Ya, bisa teman-teman lihat ya. Middle channelnya pun clear. Lihat dari sini juga. Ingat range gold saat ini cukup besar. Baik keluhnya aja ini di time frame kecil aja 3.700 poin teman-teman. Ya, fokus news FOMC ini lebih ke konferensinya, bukan pada data. Karena tadi datanya sama, datanya sesuai ekspektasi. Untuk wawancara Om Powell bisa dilihat live, bisa kalian lihat di YouTube-nya The Fed, atau bisa dilihat di mana? Biasanya Bro Rek lihatnya di mana yang
Di
tidak masuk?
YouTube, Bos ya?
YouTube kan?
Iya,
YouTube-nya
di
The
YouTube
Fed.
betul.
Nah, bisa kalian tonton di
Federal Reserve gitu.
Yang pintar bahasa Inggris boleh bantu nanti mentranslatekan seperti biasa. Kita coba sambil cari peluangnya. Kalaupun turun, menurut saya turunnya juga nggak sejauh itu. Karena channel ini cukup kuat. Nggak akan semudah itu menembus langsung. Jaraknya juga jauh kan. Kita lihat dari sini lah. Ya sekitar 4.500 poin kalau dari harga running saat ini. Kalaupun break dari sini turun ya 2000-an poin. 3350 itu rounded number. Angka bulat itu termasuk angka psikologis yang menurut saya cukup kuat. Terus di harga 3350 itu ada area ya support, become resisten, dan bisa become support kembali. Ingat area, nggak angka pasti. Pertanyaannya apakah dia akan turun ke area support dulu, area ini, support line, atau dia akan langsung naik ke atas. Pattern ada apa, Bos Adi? Mungkin ada penglihatan yang saya belum lihat jelas saat ini, atau mirip.
Oke. Thank you kesempatannya Mas Arno. Jadi yang saya lihat dari sebelum-sebelumnya juga di kesempatan live trade saya sampaikan, yang saya lihat adalah kondisi ini dari struktur mungkin di daily ya. Nah, saya lebih lihat ke jangka panjangnya dan melihat level saat ini tuh merupakan area support. Dengan kondisi di pergerakan harga lebih detailnya ya, strukturnya ini setelah dia downtrend, nah ini tuh kelihatan mulai tertahan dan mulai ada sedikit kenaikan Bos Argo. Nah ini yang cukup menarik perhatian untuk saya. Jadi kalau saya lihatnya ada kecenderungan harga ini akan lanjut naik di kondisi saat ini. Kalau dari pattern sih belum ada. Cuman melihat nah kecenderungan harga ini ya, yang awalnya dia turun terus mulai semakin naik, ditambah sekarang ini berada di area koreksi Fibonacci. Pas nyentuh level 50 dia tertahan. Jadi saya melihat ada kemungkinan dia untuk lanjut naik gitu.
Ya, saya cukup setuju sih. dari price actionnya ya. Cuman ingat kadang guncangannya pada saat pidato ini, nah itu yang membuat galau.
Betul banget.
Kita udah
Betul.
nge-hold buy, tiba-tiba turun duluan. Kita ketinggalan harga yang lebih murah. Kita tunggu harga turun, ternyata dia sudah tembus naik duluan. Padahal kita berharap bisa beli di harga murah, ternyata dia terbang duluan. So, harus gimana? Itu pertanyaan pasti di kepala teman-teman. Kapan nge-buy? Nanti muncul lagi pertanyaan, masih bisa buy sekarang atau tidak? Nah, solusinya adalah kita berhitung kira-kira mana yang worth it, sambil memikirkan nih putusan apa yang terbaik. Karena biasanya FOMC meeting ini adalah sifatnya itu, koreksi kalau salah ya, sifatnya adalah kalau teman-teman kebiasaan melihat ini long term ya, pergerakan harganya ini cenderung lebih ke jangka panjang atau medium lah. Kita bicara mungkin salah satu bagaimana harga ini bisa ditentukan mau kemana ke depannya. Nobar sendiri-sendiri boleh, nanti mungkin salah satu bisa share share videonya juga boleh. Nah, jadi nggak ada salahnya kita wait, kita menunggu, bukan kita nggak entry ya, beda ya. Kita menunggu benar-benar tervalidasi. Mungkin saya akan pasang pending order di harga 3.400. Satu lot, dua lot. Hmm. Untuk target penguatan gold ya, Pak Dharma kepencet itu garis-garisnya. Empat satu sembilan. Nah, ini belum TP, belum pasti ya, bentar. Saya masih ngitung. Saya mungkin akan lebih ke swing saat ini. Karena melihat pergerakan harga ini yang range-nya cukup besar. Kita nggak bisa pakai TP pendek-pendek. 450 untuk target kita. Pastikan gunakan lot yang sesuai karena range-nya cukup besar. Kita hitung dari ininya lah. Kita hitung dari SL-nya. Nah ini untuk penempatan SL. Mas Adi lebih tertarik yang di nolnya atau di bawah swing yang terakhir ini?
Kalau dari saya lebih ke yang paling bawah sih Mas Argo.
Ya, nolnya kan ya. Karena ini kan
Ya,
jarak tipis banget ini.
betul.
Kak nanggung gitu loh. 66, 3366. Plus di $6.000, TP di $9.000, $10.000. Nah, kali ini dulu, buy stop-nya bisa di-share dulu. Box style-nya benar, masih dalam pemikiran. Untuk sell stopnya sementara ini ya, tapi nanti kita bisa manfaatin swing harganya, walaupun dia turun kita bisa manfaatin eh, swing harganya untuk menggeser SL dari sell stopnya. Jadi tentatif mengikuti price actionnya. Jadi catat dulu. Untuk buy stopnya benar. Untuk buy stopnya belum bisa entry, sabar. Kita pasang pending order. Tiga empat 40. Ya koreksi sedikit di TP-nya yang buy stop 3440. Oke. Ada koreksi sedikit di TP-nya buy stop 3440.
Bos Arko, jadi ini untuk plannya nanti ketika sudah ada yang tereksekusi, yang satu dihapus pending ordernya ya, Bos Arko ya?
Ya, salah satu aja. Kita fokus
Oke.
satu aja. Sampai sini teman-teman, ada yang masih pemula? Ada yang masih pemula atau yang di sini sudah bertahun-tahun semua? Kemarin yang ikut tabletop juga di Surabaya gimana? Seru teman-teman? Yang kemarin sudah sempetin hadir di Surabaya. Untuk scalping ada peluang nggak? Kalau untuk scalping ya nunggu TikTokannya nih. Tapi kalau news FOMC kayak gini buat scalpingan menurut saya kurang tepat sih.
Bos Arko, sorry,
Ya.
mau memastikan ini antara SL-nya buy stop sama eksekusinya sell stop itu memang harganya beda ya, Bos Arko ya?
Oh, benar. Kegeser nih kayaknya. Harusnya di sini, harusnya di low-nya ini. 366, kan 3360, 3366.
Oke,
Benar ya?
siap.
366. Thank you sudah diingatkan nih, jam-jam ngantuk ini. Benar ya? untuk scalping. Nah, ini untuk scalping FOMC saya kurang recommended sih. Udah mulai naik podium nggak? Saya coba. Brorek mungkin bisa dibantu.
Oke, besar kok.
Scalping kondisi FOMC, spread melebar, slippage-nya bisa terjadi. Kurang recommended teman-teman.
About the economic outlook, largely reflecting trade policy concerns. It remains to be seen how these developments might affect future spending and investment. In our summary of economic projections, the median participant projects GDP to rise 1.4% this year and 1.6% next year, somewhat slower than projected in March. In the labor market, conditions have remained solid. Payroll job gains averaged 135,000 per month over the past 3 months. The unemployment rate, 4.2%, remains low and has stayed in a narrow range for the past year. Wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggests that conditions in the labor market are broadly imbalanced and consistent with maximum employment. The labor market is not a source of significant inflationary pressures. The median projection for the unemployment rate in the S&P is 4.5% at the end of this year and next, a bit higher than projected in March. Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated.
Ya ini Bos Argo info aja suaranya mantul ya.
Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index, total prices rose 2.3% over the 12
Suaranya
months.
kedobelan tadi.
Suaranya siapa?
Categories. Core PCE.
Suara outputan di tempat kita Bos Argo. Mungkin karena di tempatnya Bos Anton ada style ini ya, style volume, terus masuk tempatnya Bos Argo, dia ke input ke Zoom meetingnya gitu.
Oh, oke.
Nah, jadi tapi ini udah aman sih. Mungkin suaranya sedikit dikecilin ya.
Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. The median projection in the S&P for total PCE inflation this year is 3%, somewhat higher than projected in March. The median inflation projection falls to 2.4% in 2026 and 2.1% in 2027. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5%, and to continue reducing the size of our balance sheet. We will continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the incoming data, evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. Changes to trade, immigration, fiscal, and regulatory policies continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. The effects of tariffs will depend, among other things, on their ultimate level. Expectations of that level, and thus of the related economic effects, reached a peak in April and have since declined. Even so, increases in tariffs this year are likely to push up prices and weigh on economic activity. The effects on inflation could be short-lived, reflecting a one-time shift in the price level. It's also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent. Avoiding that outcome will depend on the size of the tariff effects, on how long it takes for them to pass through fully into prices, and ultimately on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored.
Our obligation is to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored and to prevent a one-time increase in price level from becoming an ongoing inflation problem. As we act to meet that obligation, we will balance our maximum employment and price stability mandates, keeping in mind that without price stability, we cannot achieve the long periods of strong labor market conditions that benefit all of us. We may find ourselves in the challenging scenario in which our dual mandate goals are in tension. If that were to occur, we would consider how far the economy is from each goal and the potentially different time horizons over which those respective gaps would be anticipated to close. For the time being, we are well positioned to wait to learn more about the likely course of the economy before considering any adjustments to our policy stances. In our SEP, FOMC participants wrote down their individual assessments of an appropriate path for the federal funds rate based on what each participant judges to be the most likely scenario going forward. The median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 3.9% at the end of this year, the same as projected in March. The median projection declines to 3.6% at the end of next year and to 3.4% at the end of 2027, a little higher than the March projection. These individual forecasts are always subject to uncertainty, and as I've noted, uncertainty is unusually elevated. And of course, these projections are not a committee plan or decision. At this meeting, the committee continued its discussions as part of our 5-year review of our monetary policy framework. We focused on issues related to assessing the risks and uncertainties that are relevant for monetary policy and the potential implications for policy strategy and communications. Our review includes outreach and public events involving a wide range of parties, including Fed Listens events around the country and a research conference that we held last month. We are open to new ideas and critical feedback, and we will take on board lessons of the last 5 years in determining our findings. We intend to wrap up any modifications to our statement on longer-run goals and monetary policy strategy by late summer. After that, we will consider enhancements to our suite of communications tools, including the SEP. The Fed has been assigned 2 goals for monetary policy: maximum employment and stable prices. We remain committed to supporting maximum employment, bringing inflation sustainably to our 2% goal, and keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our success in delivering on these goals matters to all Americans. We understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission, and we at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Ini mulai tanya jawab ya.
Thank you. Colby Smith with the New York Times. To what extent has the more limited impact on tariffs at this stage on inflation changed your view on what the ultimate economic fallout will be from these policies and the timing of when they will materialize?
So we've had 3 months of favorable inflation readings since the high readings of January and February, and that's, of course, highly welcome news. Part of that just is that services, core services, both housing services and non-housing services have really been grinding.
Mayoritas pejabat The Fed masih menargetkan 2 kali pemotongan suku bunga dengan target suku bunga akhir di 3,75 sampai 4,00 basis point dalam hitungan akhir tahun 2025.
To see more of that over the course of the summer. It takes some time for tariffs to work their way through the chain of distribution to the end consumer.
Ya, mulai tanya jawab.
That would be goods being sold to retailers today may have been reported 7 months ago before tariffs were imposed. So we're beginning to see some effects, and we do expect to see more of them over coming months. We do also see price increases in some of the relevant categories like personal computers, visual equipment, things like that, attributable to tariff increases. In addition, we look at surveys of businesses, and there are many of those, and you do see a range of things, but many companies do expect to put all or some or all of the effective tariffs through to the next person in the chain and ultimately to the consumer. Today, the amount of the tariff effects, the size of the tariff effects, their duration and the time it will take are all highly uncertain. So that is why we think the appropriate thing to do is to hold where we are as we learn more. And we think our policy stance is in a good place where we're well positioned to react to incoming developments.
So in terms of how we should interpret the rate cuts penciled into the SEP, is this reflecting that there's this expectation that underlying inflation will just stay well enough contained that allows the committee to eventually move ahead with those cuts? Or is it about, responding to a deterioration in economic activity, let's say? I mean, how should we make sense of the forecast?
So if you look at the forecast, you will see that people do generally expect inflation to move up and then to come back down. But we can't just assume that. Of course, we don't know that. And, our job is to make sure, one of our jobs is to make sure that one-time increase in inflation doesn't turn into an inflation problem. And then again, that will depend on the size of the effects, how long it takes for them to come in, and ultimately on keeping inflation expectations anchored.
Thanks, Chair Howard Schneider with Reuters. If you look at the rate path starting in December to the day and adjusting over the full time horizon you've got there, you've taken about a quarter point per year out of your projected path, and you ended a higher rate at 2027 than you would have in the prior forecast. Is that a result of a sense that tariffs will lead to more persistent inflation? Is it a result of reassessments of rate or short-term neutral rate? Is it why do you want to slow it down?
So I would focus most on the nearer term as you get out to the later years. It's hard for anybody to know where the economy is going. You didn't see people moving their longer term, estimate of the neutral rate, for example, at this meeting. So and those things are probably slow moving. So I think if you look at what's happening here since March, this is since March, right? You see a little slower growth, just a tiny tick up, 1/10 tick up in unemployment, and you see inflation moving up 3/10. And by the way, it was a similar move from the December SEP to the March. So that's what you see. You see the effects of tariffs. I think we learned in April after the March meeting that substantially higher tariffs were likely, and then since then, the estimates of where the tariffs will be have actually moved back down, although still at an elevated level. So we're adapting in real time, and what you see is that an accumulation of individual assessments.
You say in the statement that risks have diminished on that front, but the July 9th, drop dead date for all the Liberation Day tariffs is still out there and unresolved. You've got now exchange of missiles between two Middle East adversaries with a possible U.S. involvement. How can you justify saying that risks have diminished?
So what we said was that uncertainty uncertainty about the economic outlook has diminished but remains elevated. Many surveys say that they do. So and that's actually a line from the Teal book, which you can see in 5 years. Remember to check that.
Maybe we won't.
No, but if you think about it, tariff uncertainty really peaked in April, and since then has come down. And that's
Ayo teman-teman, ada yang mau tanya nggak ke kakek kita ini, mumpung sesi tanya jawabnya dibuka. Nah, habis ini giliran dari ini perwakilan Indonesia yang bertanya ini.
Tadi boleh tanya ini.
Kalau saya yang tanya, tinggal ini gimana ini kesimpulannya, mau naik atau mau turun? Harganya mau gimana ini?
Iya, masih di situ-situ aja karena belum ada alasan kuat untuk rally saat ini. The Fed belum ngasih sinyal pemangkasan yang jelas. Jadi marketnya bisa ragu-ragu dan masih sideways saat ini. Kemungkinan harga emas konsolidasi antara 3370 sampai 3400 di harga sideways saat ini. Belum ada kata kunci. Kenaikan tajam bisa terjadi jika ada sentimen tambahan dari data ekonomi berikutnya. Mungkin PCE atau tenaga kerja saat ini. Nah, janganlah, jangan nuklir Iran kepleset ke White House, bos sih. Yang repot satu ekosistem tanah akun nanti. Saya jawab masih netral juga saat ini. Ini high impact-nya di jam berapa? Saat ini kita sedang mendengarkan pidato yang bisa impact-nya high, bos.
Chair, I wonder if you could describe for us some of those scenarios. How do you get to a place of noticing that the uncertainty levels in your forecast are very high? How do you get to a place where you have the confidence in the outlook for, say, inflation and or growth or the unemployment rate? How many months does it take, and what do you want to see in the data to get to that level of confidence to actually reduce rates off the restricted level?
So it's again, it's very, very hard to say when that will happen. We know that the time will come. Could come quickly. It could not come quickly. As long as the economy is solid, though, as long as we're seeing the kind of labor market that we have and reasonably decent growth and inflation moving down, we feel like the right thing to do is to be where we are, where our policy stance is, and just learn more. And in particular, we feel like we're going to learn a great deal more over the summer on tariffs.
Nah, saya ke toilet dulu.
Kayaknya ini geraknya memang nunggu ada perwakilan Indonesia yang tanya ini teman-teman nih.
for PCE for 2025, the forecast was 2.5%, which was a good inflation forecast. I think what we've learned is that, and this was long before we had any idea of what the actual policies would be, we've learned that the tariffs are going to be substantially larger than forecasters generally thought. And, you know, we don't, our forecasts are generally not particularly different from those of other, you know, well-resourced forecasting operations. So what we learned, and particularly in April, was that very substantially larger tariffs were coming, and that would mean higher inflation. That's what happened. And so you saw 2.5% forecast in December, you saw 2.8% in March, and you see 3.1% now. So it's 0.6 higher inflation for 2025, and that's a big part of the change, and that's due to the effects of the tariffs that are, you know, we don't know where they're going to land, but it's pretty apparent they're going to land higher than outside forecasters were really guessing at the end of last year.
My follow-up to that, I think consumers, right, we're looking for relief on rates when it comes to mortgages, car loans. Small businesses want to take out more manageable loans. When you look at the cumulative inflation over the past 5 years, prices have risen over 20%. It's been a rough road. So what is the tipping point then for the wait and see approach in terms of how much it's going to help versus when it hurts the American consumer?
Well, I mean, we're trying to restore price. The best thing we can do for the public that we serve is restore price stability. If we can, and we will, restore price stability, meaning 2% inflation on a durable, sustainable basis. That, and also maximum employment. If we restore those things, that's the best thing, and that is our goal. The best thing we can do for the American people, for households and businesses, that is the ultimate thing that we can deliver. And they can make their decisions without having to think about inflation all the time. So in the meantime, we have to keep rates high to get inflation all the way down. They're not very high, let's be honest. I would say policy is modestly or moderately, probably modestly now restrictive. If you look at the economy, it's not performing as though it were performing under very strict monetary policy, very restrictive monetary policy. So I would say probably modestly restrictive. And so what it will take is confidence that inflation is coming down. Now, I would say without tariffs, that confidence would be building, because if you see what's happening with non-housing services and housing services, which are the other two big pieces other than goods, those are coming down really nicely now. So I think we have to learn a little more about tariffs. I don't know what the right way for us to react will be. I think it's hard to know with any confidence how we should react until we see really the size of the effects, and then we can start to make a better judgment. So that's what we're doing, and I think we can take the time to do that because unemployment is 4.2%. Wages are moving up. Real wages are moving up at a healthy clip now, and inflation is 2.3% headline inflation over a 12-month basis. So it's a good economy and a solid economy with decent growth.
Thank you, Chair Powell. So you're saying that uncertainty has come down, the economy is moving at a solid pace, inflation has come down over the past 3 months, and this is all moving in the right direction. So are you indicating here that Americans should expect some sort of economic pain in the second half of the year?
I'm not saying that at all. From our standpoint, what I can say is that the U.S. economy is in solid shape. Inflation has come down. The unemployment rate remains at 4.2%. As I mentioned, real wages are moving up. It's a good job creation is at a healthy level. Unemployment, again, as I said, low. Labor force participation in a good place. So, and what we're waiting for to reduce rates is to understand what will happen with really the tariff inflation. And there's a lot of uncertainty about that. Every forecaster you can name who is a professional forecaster with adequate resources and forecasts for a living is forecasting a pretty significant. Everyone that I know is forecasting a meaningful increase in inflation in coming months from tariffs, because someone has to pay for the tariffs, and it will be someone in that chain that I mentioned between the manufacturer, the exporter, the importer, the retailer, ultimately somebody putting it into a good of some kind, or just the consumer buying it. And all through that chain, people will be trying not to be the ones who pick up the cost, but ultimately the cost of the tariff has to be paid, and some of it will fall on the end consumer. We know that because that's what businesses say, that's what the data say from past. So we know that's coming, and we just want to see see a little bit of that before we make judgments prematurely.
And follow up on that. So you spent years though talking about how you're data dependent, and be a little more direct on this. Now you're making decisions looking forward. Doesn't the data you're seeing today indicate there should be a rate cut?
No, I mean, your monetary policy has to be forward-looking. That is elementary. You've got to be looking at, I always talk about the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. We say that over and over and over again, right? So it's always forward-looking. If you know, at the very beginning of the pandemic, we cut rates to zero immediately. Nothing had happened. We just knew that it was going to be really bad, right? So we took very aggressive forward-looking because we knew things were going to be unusually difficult. So, of course, this is something we sort of know is coming. We just don't know the size of it. And again, the economy seems to be in solid shape. So the labor market's not crying out for a rate cut. Businesses, were in a bit of shock after April 2, but you see business sentiment, you talk to business people now, there's a very different feeling now that people are working their way through this, and they understand how they're going to go, and it feels much more positive and constructive than it did 3 months ago, let's say. So again, we think that our current stance of monetary policy is in a good place.
Thank you. Amara Mokwe with Bloomberg. Chair Powell, in February, you told Congress that the Fed is, quote, overworked, maybe not overstaffed. Then in a memo to staff in May announcing a deferred resignation program at the Fed, you said you wanted to ensure that the Fed was, quote, right-sized. Those two statements appear to be at odds with one another. Could you explain what changed in the roughly 3 months between those statements that made you decide that staff levels at the Fed should decline?
I don't see them at all as intention. So I was asked, is the Fed overstaffed? And I said no. And I sort of said as a pun, overworked but not overstaffed. People do work extremely hard at the Fed, and I know they work hard at Bloomberg too. So, but we do. We work hard. But I would say this. So we are careful stewards of public resources, and sometimes you need to show that. So there have been several times in our history, modern history, where the Fed has said, you know what, we're going to do a buyout. We're going to show the public. We're going to demonstrate that we are good stewards of public resources. So we thought, and I thought, that this is a time when we can, we grow at about, our headcount has grown at about 1% a year. So over the course of a couple of years, we're doing a careful scrub of the board and all the reserve banks, and we're going to find 10% of employees who can do something else, where we can streamline our operations, and we think we can get there in a couple of years. We think we can do that, and we think this is without taking risk to carrying out our critical missions. So this is something you do very carefully, thoughtfully, and you do it, again, respecting that we have critical missions to carry out. I've had experience, a lot of experience in my prior careers, with headcount reductions and things like that, and this is how you do it professionally. You do it carefully, thoughtfully, with a lot of planning, and you do it over a period of time. And I think the Fed will be fine. I think no one will notice any decline in our ability to carry out our missions. And I think it's just us wanting to demonstrate
Kalau saya tarik beberapa data
good stewards
dari beberapa perbankan institusi besar di
wiping out 10
luar,
years of
mulai dari Goldman Sachs,
so, I mean,
JP
we
Morgan.
want to show that, that we're good
Yeah.
stewards.
How is
Nah, ini
progress
saya
on
rangkum aja.
so far? Are you on
Mayoritas
track?
bank besar bersikap bullish hingga sangat bullish memproyeksi emas naik hingga 3.700 sampai 4.500 dalam 12 sampai 18 bulan ke depan.
Can do it at
Ini
intervals,
terutama karena permintaan kuat dari bank sentral dan ETF.
interfering with your ability to perform your jobs.
Goldman Sachs di harga $3.700 di akhir 2025.
Claire Jones from the Financial Times. As you're no doubt aware,
JP Morgan di 3.675 di kuartal
reconciliation bill
4.
this week, and I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the tenor of the debate at the FOMC over the past few days on
Berarti artinya mampu break lagi sih
and the degree to which
untuk
that
prediksi dari beberapa bank
for 2026.
besar saat ini.
Yeah, so we don't sit around and debate or really discuss. We take fiscal policy as fully exogenous.
Tapi untuk Citibank
So people,
Ada pengecualian ya, mereka melihat potensi koreksi tajam ke bawah 3.000. Kalau ekonomi global membaik dan investor kembali ke aset
when it gets close.
berimbal hasil.
Remember also we have a very, very large economy and that the effects will be at the margin. I expect that they may already be in, but they will be in by the next meeting. We'll make an estimate. But it's not a major thing. It's nothing.
ETF itu ya, ini ETF itu apa? ETF. Kita bacanya ETF, Exchange Trade Fund. Exchange Traded Fund. Itu reksadana yang diperdagangkan di bursa, seperti saham. Jadi ETF itu kumpulan aset, bisa saham, obligasi, emas, dan lain-lain yang dikemas jadi suatu produk.
Collection in the last few weeks, worries that long-running problems around funding and response rates may be getting worse. How much is this concern on your radar? How much confidence do you have that the gauges you're watching to assess the economy are reliable right now?
Two things. One, the data we get right now, we can do our jobs. I'm not concerned that we can't do our jobs. That's not the point. The point really is that we are starting to see, layoffs and important gatherers of data are saying that they're having to cut back on the size of their surveys. That's going to lead to more volatility in the surveys. I think we should take a step back and, from our standpoint, and I think the standpoint of businesses and governments and everyone, having really good data on the state of the economy at any given time is a huge public good. It helps, it not just doesn't help the Fed, it helps the government, it helps Congress, it helps the executive branch. More importantly, really, it helps businesses. They need to know what's going on in the economy. The United States has been a leader for many, many years in this whole project of measuring and understanding in our very large and dynamic economy. And I hate to see us cutting back on that because it is a real benefit to the general public that people in best possible understanding of what's happening in the economy and hence what's likely to happen. It's very hard to measure what's going on in the U.S. economy. If you read, there was a book called, it's really remarkable how many understand to estimate U.S. GDP. Very, very difficult. It's so important that we get it right. I just would say it's not a place to. I would want to keep investing in that, for the good of the general public.
Victoria. Hi, Victoria Guida with Politico. So you're conducting this monetary policy strategy framework review, but next year we're supposed to have a new Fed chair. And I'm wondering if that affects at all the way that you're approaching this. How do you ensure that this framework will actually be durable?
The framework document goes back to 2012, and it's the committee's document. It's not like we're going to invent a brand new way to do things. It's been an evolving document, so it shouldn't depend on who the chair is at all. It should depend on what's happening in the economy and what the committee wants to do. So. Yeah, it isn't really tied to any particular chair, and we used to renew it every year. Now we do it every 5 years. So, but I don't think I've never heard anyone raise this issue that a new chair might want to come in and go in a completely different direction. I really don't think that's right. But but that's not going to be up to me to decide.
Is that affecting at all who you're consulting with?
Not at all. Not in any way.
Thank you. Chair Powell, Matt Egan from CNN. Relatively low gas prices this year have helped drive down inflation in recent reports, but that trend is starting to reverse given the crisis in the Middle East. How are you thinking about how the Israel-Iran conflict will impact the economy?
OP-nya baik, CP di 3399, SL di 3365.
2022 period, when another conflict, the Russia-Ukraine war, sent oil and gas prices skyrocketing.
So of course we're watching, like everybody else is, what's going on. I really, possible that we'll see higher energy prices. What's tended to happen is when there's turmoil in the Middle East, you may see a spike in energy prices, but tends to come down. Those things don't generally tend to have lasting effects on inflation, although of course in the 1970s they famously did.
Memanfaatkan pergerakan harga sideways saat ini. Kalau dia break low ya artinya dia lanjut turun ke bawah. Menurut saya lanjut turun pun nggak bisa terlalu jauh, tertahannya juga di area ini.
1970s, so but there.
Dia tertahan di area support kuat.
Bos Argo mungkin bisa share screen ke chat mungkin, Bos Argo. Ini masih di
entry-level jobs and significantly increase the unemployment rate. I'm wondering how concerned you are, if at all,
Bentar.
about the threat.
Dropnya agak jauh teman-teman. Dropnya agak jauh. Tahan dulu.
So this is the question.
Dropnya agak jauh, Bos Adi. Tahan dulu. Yang belum entry tahan dulu.
Augmenting labor or replacing labor? And I wouldn't see those announcements, including one today. I wouldn't, overread a couple of data points because, AI should be creating.
Tapi untuk pending order, ini delete dulu ya, Bos Argo ya?
Ya, pending ordernya dikit dulu aja. Bentar. Dia dropnya agak jauh soalnya.
Have been a little bit stunned at how capable it is, and it's just a different thing. So, I think this is something that certainly has transformational potential, and probably we're in the very early stages of it. They say what you're seeing now compared to what you'll see in 2 years is going to be very different and even more effective. So, I think it's really hard to know. That, of course, there are optimists who feel like it's going to make everybody much more productive. And there are those who think it's going to replace an awful lot of jobs right across the income spectrum, white collar, blue collar, and everything. So I just don't know. We don't have a house view on that, but this is going to be a very important question for some time.
Thank you. Greg Rapp from MarketWatch. I was wondering if you could step back a little bit, Chair Powell. There's a spate of articles and a lot of op-eds now in the newspapers saying that the U.S. economy and the global economy is going through this profound change, akin to the end of the Bretton Woods era in the 1970s. And don't you owe the American people some sort of explanation for what we're going through? I mean, I noticed earlier this month when you talked about Bretton Woods a little bit, and you said that Bretton Woods, the Fed staff had to change how the movements of the dollar was impacting the economy. Are we going through something like that now? That, are you having to change how you do monetary policy? Is it that fundamental a change underway? Thanks.
It's certainly a time of real change. From a geopolitical standpoint, from a trade standpoint, from an immigration standpoint, you see this not just here but everywhere. So there's quite a lot going on. It doesn't change the way we do monetary policy in the near term. But and it doesn't change our objectives or what we need to do. And these things are not really our issues. They're really issues for elected governments. All of those issues are really for elected governments. But there's no question it's a time of real change, and very hard to see where that goes. Will it be? There have been many things written about how it's going to be a more inflationary time. That's possible. It's not guaranteed. AI could cut in the very other direction. AI could make people much more productive and push in the other direction. I don't know though. But you're right. But honestly, our focus is a much more practical one, and that is how do we keep inflation low and employment high in the near term. That's really what we're about.
Hello, Chairman Powell. Mark Hamrick with Bankrate. What is the view about the growing amount of slack in the job market, including the softening in payrolls, the forecast of a modest rise in the unemployment rate, and the ability of workers to demand wage hikes or not in this environment where you have inflation surging?
You don't really see unemployment going up. You don't see increased slack really. At the margin, remember you're at 4.2% unemployment. That was for many years. That was an extremely low level. It happens to have come up off of an even lower level as we came out of the pandemic. We were as low as 3.4%, but 4.2% is probably at the low end of estimates of the longer run, sustainable level of natural rate of unemployment. So I guess I wouldn't agree with that. And also, in terms of wages, real wages after inflation have been moving up sort of more than was consistent with 2% inflation. They're still moving up at a healthy clip, and I think much more consistent with 2% inflation given a reasonable assessment of trend productivity.
Benar, jangan buy dulu, jangan buy dulu. Cenderung breakout soalnya nih, setelah harga
But so has the supply of workers, the change in the supply, the
break
new
nih,
supply. So you've seen the unemployment
harga
rate
cenderung,
pretty
menurut
stable
saya cenderung
at 4.2.
breakout bawah.
It's been as high as 4.3, but those are good numbers. So it's a pretty good labor market. There's a more concerning thing. There's not a lot of layoffs, but there are not a lot of job creation. The number, if you're out of work, it's hard to find a job, but very few people are being laid off at this point. So that's an equilibrium we watch very, very carefully, because if there were to be significant
Dia
layoffs,
cenderung menguji support saat ini. Dia break retest.
you would have an increase in unemployment fairly quickly.
Ya nggak, Bos
But that
Ade?
hasn't happened. It really hasn't happened.
Break retest
The U.S. economy has defied for it to
masih sesuai dengan plan awal.
really over the last 3 years.
Kalau saya masih melihat ini sebagai kondisi sideways ya, Bos Argo ya. Jadi level ini level 3366 level 3366 itu selama belum di breakout masih besar kemungkinan untuk harga ini dia balik naik lagi menurut saya, karena kondisi sideways, dan bahkan ketika ada FOMC malam hari ini pun dia harga masih di resisten turun, di support dia mulai tertahan. Jadi kalau belum breakout 3366, saya belum bisa banyak komentar sih, Bos Argo.
Look, I think people are writing down
Lebih
their
ke
worst.
wait and see mungkin.
Not saying there's zero possibility of other things. Really, it's think of it as the least unlikely path in a situation like this where uncertainty is very high. I think again, people write down their rate paths, and they do not have like a really high conviction that this is exactly what's going to happen over the next 2 years. No one feels that way about their rate path. They feel like, what am I going to write down? I mean, what would you write down? It's not easy to do that with confidence. So I would just say it that way. We don't rule things in or out. Certainly a hike is not the base case at all. It's not something people are writing down. But in the meantime, we do the best we can with these forecasts, and I think they're representative of the different forecasts and different reaction functions that people on the committee have. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Selesai ya? Ya, jawabnya juga.
Ya, selesai, Bos Ratko. Ya, kalau saya simpulkan sih, sebetulnya dari isi pidatonya Jerome Powell, dia bersikap cenderung netral sedikit hawkish sebetulnya. Nah, ini kalau kita lihat ke dampak pergerakan di marketnya, ya seperti yang kita lihat dan sudah kita antisipasi di live tadi jam 7 ya, pergerakannya cenderung akan sideways. Ya, saya setuju dengan Bos Ade ya, secara teknikal dia akan turun ketika dia break dari ini, low range sideways-nya Bos Nako, yang 3366 tadi itu. Dan mungkin turunnya pun, kalau versi saya ya, saya melihat kondisinya, ada kemungkinan dia tertahan di support trendline yang Bos Nako buat. Ya, di area situ. Ada kemungkinan nanti akan mengejar ke area tersebut setelah itu, ya bisa jadi akan kembali naik kalau melihat perkembangannya terkait geopolitik.
Jadi poinnya itu harga masih bisa cenderung turun, tapi turunnya terbatas. Kalaupun kita mau ngambil sell saat ini, cukup beresiko. Cukup sayang sih. Maksudnya lebih tepatnya kita bisa dapat harga lebih murah kalau dia kejar ke support berikutnya. Kalau kita buy sekarang, katakanlah nih, dia masih bisa turun lagi, kita kehilangan harga yang jauh bisa lebih murah 2000-an poin. Better kita buy-nya nunggu di area-area support kuat. sekitar 3350. Mending pending ordernya tadi close dulu aja. Pending order hapus dulu aja teman-teman. Pending order yang buy stop, sell stop, better kita no trade saat ini. Bukan di harga yang baik. Ya, buy stop dan sell stop di close dulu. Ketika dia break 3366, dia turun sekitar 3350-an. Nah, support kuat 3350-an itu menurut saya. 3350-an itu support kuat. Di situ bisa mempertimbangkan untuk buy. Ibu 618 ya, Ibu 618 yang ini ya. Ya, 3350-an tuh kisaran Ibu 61.8. Tidak terlalu jauh dari itu. 61.8. Kalau dia break pun menurut saya tidak jauh bisa turun saat ini. Kisaran di 61.8. Kita nggak harus memaksakan trade kalau memang peluangnya saat ini nggak begitu jelas. Ya masih di area zona sideways juga. Nah, di 61.8 ini kisaran 3353, 3354, 3355, 3350-an ya, area kisaran inilah. Better nunggu mantul sekalian di support channel. Tadi kan sempat ada buy nih, cuman saya ngeliat tadi loh, pertimbangan buy instan eksekusi tadi itu kurang oke-nya karena dia ada potensi bisa turun dulu saat ini. Nah, cuman kalau kita mau nge-sell, memanfaatkan bisa turunnya dulu sell saat ini, kurang worth it penempatannya. Dia juga belum valid break swing low yang ini. Ya, dia belum valid, belum break ini. Karena kita mau nge-sell dia tertahan di sini, dia lanjut naik juga itu sangat disayangkan. Kita nge-sell saat ini targetnya juga pendek, cuma 2000-an poin, sedangkan TP-nya 2600 poin karena swing high terakhirnya dia kan ada di sini kan, 3396 ini. Dari saya itu sih teman-teman. Mungkin ada tanggapan?
Saya setuju sih Bos Arko, lebih baik wait and see dulu, nggak usah dipaksakan harus trade pas news kalau memang belum ada peluang. Malah besok mungkin kita bisa hari ini wait and see dulu, Besok siang kita ada live trade lagi, atau bisa jadi malamnya kalau memang ada peluang ya baru kita eksekusi. Gitu.
Ya, kan kita sehari ada 2 kali live trade ya, siang dan malam. Siang 1 jam, malam 1-2 jam. Setiap hari di grup kita, di NS Trade. Jadi kalian yang mau dapetin update-nya, siapa tahu nanti ada info nih, wah ini sudah di kondisi harga terbaik. Dengan analisa chartis kah, atau dengan analisa indikator lainnya, atau teknik-teknik simpel kita yang lain. Nah, itu bisa memberikan pandangan yang mungkin lebih clear ya. Karena saat tadi kita lihat pidatonya turun pelan-pelan. Justru kita kadang memanfaatkan momen news ini dengan breakout yang kencang, teman-teman. Tapi kalau tadi kita lihat turunnya pelan-pelan, jadi galau ini. Kita mau follow, ternyata nanti malah balik naik kayak biasanya. Kena trap. Kita mau ikut nge-sell, harganya geraknya pelan-pelan kayak tadi. Jadi bingung juga. Range hariannya juga tadi besar. Kita lihat ya. Ini coba saya show lagi ke kalian. Range daily-nya dia aja untuk sideways area ini 3.600 poin. Kita mau taruh di mana? Nah, ini mulai break nih. Seperti apa yang tadi saya bilang. Masih ada potensi dia turun. Kalau teman-teman scalpingan follow trend mungkin bisa. Tapi untuk kita yang day trade atau positioning kurang oke, teman-teman. Jaraknya pendek. Kita mau pasang SL di mana? Swing high-nya aja udah jauh banget. Kita mau pakai Fibo, kita ukur Fibo di time frame kecil juga nggak oke. Bukan style saya mengukur Fibo di time frame M15, M5 gitu. Sambil kita lihat. Ada yang dapat $50 ya. Congrats. Mulai break memang, mulai break. Cuman kurang suka dengan setup-nya tadi. Setup-nya masalahnya gini-gini, teman-teman. Ini sudut pandang saya ya. Channel ini kuat. Kalau kita nge-hold sell, terus dengan target TP tadi agak di bawah, nah, ini ada support kuat yang harus ditembus lagi, bukan target menurut saya, tapi kita bisa lihat ini uptrend dari harga yang bergerak membentuk higher high, ya swing high baru, higher low, swing low yang lebih tinggi, higher high lagi, swing high yang lebih tinggi lagi dari swing high sebelumnya, higher low lagi atau low yang lebih tinggi dari sebelumnya. Nah, kita mau counter trend, janganlah. Jadi better wait and see. Ini ada apa? Masuk Kamis ya. Ini masuk Kamis. Siapa tahu di weekend kita ada peluang. Mendekati weekend ya, misalnya mendekati weekend siapa tahu ada peluang yang lebih menarik. Minggu ini range-nya juga masih belum seperti minggu-minggu sebelumnya. Itu dia break pun dia masih naik lagi, geraknya terlalu slow. Oke, dari saya seperti itu. Jarang-jarang live trade sama Mas Narko. Ya teman-teman, lagi banyak ngurusin teknis. Ya, banyak ngurusin teknis. Ada yang dari Bali? Apakah ada yang dari Bali? Mau bulan depan kita table talk di Bali? Nggak ada ini kayaknya ya. Nggak ada yang di Bali ya. Kalau ini atau udah pada ini ngantuk ini, nggak fokus ini mungkin. Atau mungkin udah ketiduran ini. Udah ketiduran, Tapi Zoom-nya masih on.
Saya dari Bali, Bos Argo.
Oh iya. Kan mau pulang kampung nggak Bos Adi? Jakarta kenapa Bose? Jakarta nggak tahu emang kenapa Jakarta? Eh,
Ya, ini
oh kapan maksudnya?
kena. Ini bukti kalau sudah
Loh hilang. Baru ngomong ini bukti udah hilang duluan.
Mungkin maksudnya bukti kalau udah mulai ngantuk, Bos Marco.
iya, bukti kalau udah mulai ngantuk. Sorry, tadi lost koneksi kameranya.
Ya kebalik. KPN jadi KNP. Makanya saya juga bingung Jakarta kenapa? Kenapa emang ada berita apa di Jakarta? Baki yang ditanya Bali, Baki Sukoharjo sih. Kita bawa fun aja. Live trade malam hari ini belum ada peluang yang menarik sih. Tidak memaksakan entry lah. Itu salah satu strategi trading terbaik adalah tidak trading di saat yang tidak nyebutnya tidak peluang yang bagus lah, bukan peluang bagus. Tidak trading ketika bukan peluang yang bagus itu adalah salah satu trading terbaik daripada kita memaksakan yang tidak strategis, analisa yang tidak strategis. Ini mulai ngantuk nih, ngomongnya aja mulai mikir ini agak delay ini. Semarang ada nggak Semarang? Wih, dari Makassar. Ini tim saya kayaknya juga ada yang dari Makassar malam hari ini. Masih online nggak ini? Yang dari Makassar, Kebumen juga ada. Semarang, saya mungkin mau ke Semarang tanggal 5, ada nikahan saudara, mungkin nginep semalam. Siapa tahu teman-teman mau nongkrong di Semarang, yang tertarik. Kepulauan Riau, Banjarsari itu mana ya? Solo ya? Banjarsari Solo atau Banjarsari mana? Jebres Solo. Lebanon ini beneran nggak ini dari Lebanon malam hari ini hadir. Lampung, lengkap ya dari mana-mana ya. Manado, oh Banjarsari Solo bener. Soalnya takutnya ada Banjarsari yang di luar kota. Saya tahunya di Solo ada daerah Banjarsari, daerah tengah kota itu. Salam dari Belanda, Aceh. Wih, lama nggak kedengeran nih dari Aceh. Ponti, planet Bekasi. Oh, ini absen nih, ini penting ini. Tanpa planet Bekasi, tatanan bumi tidak akan seimbang. Street sambil jarak roket. Beras Medan, Tangerang di Solo. Ada rekomendasi teman-teman dari Solo yang bisa diajak ngopi loh. Satu tim Street itu bisa diajak ngopi semua itu. Apalagi kalau dibayarin berangkat satu tim itu bosnya. Jangankan ngopi, bosnya nanti akan dibawa wisata kuliner yang tidak ada di kota-kota lain. Mulai dari Selat Solo yang nikmat. Terus ada sate kambing Pak Manto yang terkenal. Soto-soto Solo itu ada bermacam-macam. Banyak yang hidden gem juga. Terus ada tahu kupat yang tidak ada di tempat lain. Di Surabaya pun saya nggak nemuin ada tahu kupat. Kalau di Semarang ada tahu gimbal, di Surabaya ada tahu telur, di Solo itu ada tahu kupat. Selat Bulis, ya tiada duanya, benar. Nah, yang non halal bisa makan babi kuah. Yang non halal. Ya ini Bro Mijo nih paling suka tahu kupat ini. Ada nasi liwet Solo juga, itu deket Trading Room yang enak. Semarang ada tahu bakso. Kalau tahu bakso di mana-mana banyak yang jual. Gultik mantap tuh, gultik. Gulai tikungan. Ya, orang Jakarta yang suka makan gultik, kalau di Solo silahkan cobain gultiknya Solo. Itu dijamin rasanya lebih nendang. Saya nggak bilang lebih enak atau nggak enak, tapi secara bumbu lebih maknyus gitu, lebih terasa, lebih kuat. Secara bumbu di Solo itu lebih kuat. Itu tongseng pedes, jadi lapar. Rubik Jo masih di McD. Lapar ini. Tetap bekonang bos, gak ada duanya. Bekonang itu ciu bos ya, bukan makanan itu, setahu saya tuh. Tempat kopdarnya bos Adi di masa lampau kayaknya. Bener gak itu bos Adi? Bekonang itu.
Udahlah, jangan dibawa-bawa lah.
Jangan dibawa-bawa. Masa lalu.
Masa lalu.
Saya ingat itu daerah Bekonang itu. Ciucap tikus ya kalau nggak salah ya. Terkenal itu. Aduh, pegel. Gultik Jakarta overrated ya, tapi cobain yang gultiknya Solo. Betulnya ya, teman-teman perhatikan gultik di Jakarta yang paling pertama buka. Itu tulisannya gultik dari Solo. Dan yang jual itu tetangga saya yang rumahnya di Kartasura dulunya. Cuman dia pindah ke Jakarta. Jadi itu resepnya dari Solo, teman-teman. Tuh, yang review yang orang sudah saya ajak makan di Gultik Solo setelah minggu sebelumnya makan di Gultik Jakarta. Saya kaget kan lihat. Wih, ada tulisannya Gultik Solo gitu. Saya ajak ngobrol yang jual. Bapaknya dalamnya teng pundi gitu kan. Jadi tanya pakai bahasa Jawa halus. Dan bapaknya jawab, lo dia Sukoharjo mas gitu. Nah, itu tetangga saya tuh. Gultik Jakarta adalah Gultik Solo versi light. Ya, lebih light, rasanya lebih bisa diterima orang Jakarta menurut saya. Oke deh. Udah pada caw satu persatu. NS Street konsisten.
Salam profit.